Which allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
Roll call and then just add them afterwards.
Yeah,
I'll let you.
Lori, make sure you know when, Jonathan comes in, the time he should be coming here to give us a form.
All right,
Okay.
Lori, do you want to do a roll call?
Yes, Broad. Can you hear me? Broad, Colazzo,
Colazzo's here.
thank you. DeBowser, Frick, Lancaster, Newell,
Here.
Cerniso, Smith.
Here, present.
Thorpe. Can you hear me?
No. A little. Betsy is not here. You didn't call her, so.
Okay, 5 present, 3 absent.
Okay. All right, we have a presentation by EIS and Raymond and James for solar. You guys ready to go?
Sure. Hi, folks. My name is Hal Saville. I am the Director of Commercial Projects for EIS Solar. I'm joined this evening by David Sargis, who's our Commercial Business Manager, and by Ryan Brockman, who is with Raymond James. All right, I apologize. We had thought that we would have access to a projection screen, but we're gonna go old school here tonight. So we've given you all a copy of the financial document that we want to discuss. And I have a short PowerPoint presentation. I apologize, it's this small, but I'm just gonna run through it real quick. There's about 6 or 7 slides. All right, and then we'll talk about that financial sheet in some detail. Okay, so there's an organization called the PA Solar Center that introduced us to Nicole a couple of years ago. And at the time, Indiana was looking at doing a solar project at the one treatment plant. And so they brought that to the solar center, which asked us, along with some other solar companies, to provide proposals and to explain what could be done there. And we did that. So we went through a competitive bidding process, and based on that, we were promised an award to do the project, pending figuring out the financing, which has been a little bit of a journey. But we've been taking a look at several different possibilities. And we have one that we think is viable that we'd like to present to you tonight, give you some of the details about it. We will also make this PowerPoint presentation available. I'll get it to Eden here tonight. She can email it out to you. It's a little bit large, so it's a little tough to send via email, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so slides. So EIS Solar has been around since about 2008. We've been around 15, 16 years. We're pretty much the largest solar provider here in Western Pennsylvania. We've done some of the largest projects in the area, including Pittsburgh Airport, FedEx Ground, which is a large system. We've done places like Frick Environmental Center, Phipps Conservatory, and we've done other projects, municipal projects through this Get Solar program with PA Get Solar. In fact, we last year had 4 awards for some of these projects that were done. So as far as why we think you would want to use us and what makes us special and what we think we got awarded this project for is that we really have focused on high quality in everything that we've done. We don't try to be the cheapest company, we try to have the best product. And that's really stood us well, not only because We're still price competitive, but also, we've got systems that are very reliable and that produce very well. I hope you folks will forgive me for having my back to you during this, so I know you're back there and I appreciate you listening in. So at any rate, some of the things that we do that are different is, for example, we use a higher quality solar panel that's a glass-on-glass panel, so it's more durable, it lasts longer, it has an extra 5 years of warranty to it, so 30 years versus 25. And pretty much everything that we do along those lines is to make the system as reliable as possible. The other thing that I was gonna say is that we try when possible to use American-made products. And so, for example, those products, those panels that we're gonna be using are from a company that's been offshore, but they've decided to manufacture here in the US and in Texas. So we're making use of good quality products that are also used and made here. Our team, Joe Morinville is our president. I introduced myself already. Marty Bovee is our construction manager. He's the guy who makes everything happen in the field. Very skilled. Used to be a fire chief over in the Munhall area. So he's very familiar with sort of the municipal scene and overseeing literally the thousands of projects. And Ron Cross is our head of engineering. One of the nice things about working with us is because we have our own in-house engineering, is that we're very flexible to changes that happen. We're very nimble in terms of if there's value engineering, things that have to happen, things that have to change to make the system work properly, that we have our own in-house engineers who can make sure that it's done right and that we're conforming to all of the standards and regulations that are out there. So this is one of our projects, Pittsburgh International Airport. This is a 3.6 megawatt system. So there's roughly about 10,000 solar panels there. It's right. If you drive out the parkway, past the airport on 376, I guess it's 2230 at that point. You can see it off to the right-hand side, kind of on the hillside. We are now about to do phase 2 for the airport, another 5.4 megawatts. So not only is it a large project that we executed, it's the first one that was done on a landfill in the state of Pennsylvania. So that we were sort of groundbreaking there. And they obviously appreciated the work that we did enough to do a second phase with us.
When was that?
That was completed about 3 years ago. And the second phase will be in about another year and a half.
Still.
Yeah, yep. This is FedEx Ground World Headquarters, also out near the airport. Different mode of installation. These are parking canopies. Again, a large installation, about 3.4 megawatts of power. And what's really unique about this system is that building is the data center for the entire country for FedEx Ground. And so they needed to have completely uninterrupted power. So they actually have two electrical services fed from 2 different towns, 2 different substations, so that if for some reason one goes out, the other one's always going to be there. And that created some challenges for us in terms of the logistics of making sure that they were never out of power as we were working around and digging things up and creating new electrical runs and things. So we're very well skilled at complex operations when it comes to some of these projects. In fact, the one that we're talking about for you all, which I'll get to in a second, is it's not a small system, but it's not as big and complicated as these. It's something sort of in between. So we feel very confident that it's well within our wheelhouse. One other one I'll share with you. This is the University of Pittsburgh. This is a rooftop system. So again, another mode. Different challenges there. The biggest thing was that we were working in downtown Oakland, doing things like crane lifts where we had to close streets, working on high flat roofs, working with union contractors. So again, a more kind of complex environment to be working in, but we handled it very well. And Marty Bovee, the construction manager I mentioned, was in charge of all that and just did a great job. I mean, I don't know if you know, but like 2 years ago, there were a couple deaths in the city from construction sites that things went wrong. That just wasn't us. We had a very clean record with OSHA and we're very well thought of there. Okay, so this is the system we're talking about for you all. Show you. This is like a 3D representation. And again, we'll get to the presentation so you can see it closely. But just to kind of run through the kind of the vital statistics, the metrics of the job. We're talking about building a system that's 480.7 kilowatts DC. And so that's going to be enough to offset roughly about 20 to 25% of the consumption from the plant. So not all the power, but as much as we could reasonably fit on the ground. And in this case, we also came up with a little bit larger scenario. But what's nice about this scenario is that it's right around $1 million, but it also is of a size and design so that you ought to be able to utilize your existing electrical service, the transformer the size it is, and that we would fit in under that. So you wouldn't have a lot of extra expense upgrading your electrical system to match that larger system. We could do something a little bit larger, but then you'd have additional costs. So we're trying to find that, thread that needle for that best kind of, what is it, the mama bear situation with your site. What we're looking at doing is a ground mounted system. It would sit sort of on this kind of raised area off to the northeast side. There is a church with a pavilion area next to it that we would be sort of kind of bordering, but everything ought to fit. We've had some of our folks out there already and taking measurements, so we feel pretty confident that we can fit what we're talking about on the ground out there.
Did you include them in the conversations or no? Not yet.
No, not yet. I mean, we have an award, but we haven't actually got a contract yet, so we haven't been officially engaged. And that's something that we want to talk about, including with Solicitor Doherty, about making sure that we cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's and make sure that we have everything legitimate in terms of how we go forward with the contract. Any questions so far? It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's not a huge system, but it's a good sized system that would provide a lot of power for the plant.
Do you think in the future there will be a reason to expand or make it larger or get more equipment or?
Sure. I mean, you guys use over 2 million kilowatt hours a year. So, I mean, there's more to offset if you wanted to, whether it would make sense.
How much? We're using 100% electric now. What percentage will we be using after your installation? How much would yours be generating?
This would be able to. It should offset roughly about 19% of the existing electric that Nicole provided us with.
Of the plan.
Of the plant.
It's not powering.
20%.
Right.
Closer to 20%, so let's call it a fifth.
So we're still 80%
That's right,
regular.
that's right.
Got it.
Yep. And that's frankly, it's due, I mean, we're doing it based on keeping that transformer. But we're also doing it based on how much ground you have available there that's useful. You've got the creek there on the one side, you got the property line on the other. We're kind of fitting in and trying to maximize what we can do in the middle.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions before I go to finance? Okay, so how do we fund this thing, right? We looked at a couple different possibilities. One thing that was explored was a loan through Penvest at a very low interest rate. There were some other types of fundings, power purchase agreements. The thing about this project is that it's a fairly good sized project. But it's sort of in between financially. It's not a huge project. It's not a really small project. It's something kind of in between. And so we need to find the right type of funding that has moderate overhead in terms of actually getting the financing, but also gives you the ability to be cash positive right from the get-go, right in the first year. So that's what these two proposals are. So let me just explain what these are, and then in a couple of minutes, I'm gonna hand it over to Ryan, because he's the money guy, right? He's with Raymond James, and he's gonna explain that. But basically what you're looking at here is a cash flow analysis, and there's two different versions. If you look under the column D, see the white D on the blue space, it refers to a price to compare of 8.5 cents on one and 8 cents on the other. So what we're looking at is the range of possible, what you're paying now is closer to the 8 cents, but based on the capacity auction that's supposed to be happening in June, very shortly, you're gonna see a significant increase. So 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour is probably a conservative estimate of how high that's gonna go. But we wanted to base these based on what you're looking at now and also what you would be looking at with that future rate increase. So without getting into a whole lot of detail here, I'll let Ryan do that, but if you look at the top corner, let's look at the one with the 8.5 cents. If you look at the top corner, you're looking at a system cost of $906,000. No utility, because we're anticipating that we'll be able to keep the same utility that we have. And then there's a finance charge from Raymond James of $103,000. So your total estimated cost is right around $1.10 million. Everybody see that? And then as far as the energy that's going to be produced, you look at column A, solar energy generated about 583 kilowatt hours annually. That number goes a little bit down over time because the nature of solar systems is as they age, they slowly degrade over the 25 to 30 years life of them. And so you'll notice that there's a little bit less power each year. That's a natural thing.
When does that warranty kick in, or does it get replaced at a certain?
So these panels have a 30-year warranty. So they're guaranteed to produce a certain amount of power over their full 30-year life. There's a certain point at which, instead of replacing the panels, what they will do is they will pay you for the difference of what the value of the energy is if they underperform. That's the way all solar panel warranties work. Just running through the other columns real quick. Column B is renewable energy credits, or SRECs. Those are credits that are paid by the by the state government. And basically what you do is you contract with a broker to sell those to the utilities, which are required to buy them. So we're using a $30 valuation for every 1,000 kilowatt hours. And so we're anticipating your revenue in that first year is going to be roughly about $17,500 just from the sale of those renewable energy credits. And this isn't just a one-year thing. This is ongoing for probably at least 10 to 15 years.
Who is the broker?
So you can pick your own broker. You can also market your own credits if you want to. It is sort of a lot of work. So what most of our commercial customers choose to do is to utilize a broker. They're called an aggregator because they bundle credits from different clients together. The one that most all of our customers use is called Knollwood, Knollwood. They're located in New Jersey, and they have sort of regional coverage of a lot of the East Coast. There are other ones. There's Salt Systems, a few other ones. We're not recommending one over another. We have no financial benefit from that either, but
I was just curious.
but they're one that a lot of people, and that's kind of what we're basing this on.
Thank you.
Sure. The price to compare is what we're estimating you're going to be paying for the energy. So that other 80% that you're getting somewhere else, we're figuring it's at 8.5 cents. And if you look, there's also an escalation on that each year, roughly about 3% per year. So that's the annual inflation rate that we're attributing to the utilities. again, pretty conservative. We're probably likely to see at least a 20% increase this year from across the board from the utilities because of this rate increase that's happening in the state. So your solar electric revenue, this is the money that actually you're getting from the system that's offsetting your electric bill. So in this case, the first year is about 49,000. And what that is it's basically the 583,000 kilowatt hours times the 8.5 cents. Right? And then you notice there are some tax credits. So the biggest one is the federal tax credit, referred to as the ITC, the investment tax credit. Now, previously, municipalities couldn't collect that. But back during the last administration, they passed the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which allowed for nonprofits and municipals to claim that same tax credit. Even though they might have no federal tax liability, it allowed them to basically get a check from the IRS for that amount. So that's calculated at 25.5%. And then there's an energy community bonus, which you all would also qualify for because you're in an area that's considered an energy community because there's been coal mining and also gas mining that's happened here. So that would be an additional 8.5% bonus credit. And then there's what's called the Act 129 utility rebate. So this is something that comes directly in the state of Pennsylvania from the utility, in this case, First Energy, which would be just for 1 year. So it's similar to the SREC, but instead of being an ongoing one, it only is for the first year. And that would be roughly around 29,000. That's based again on that 583,000 kilowatt hours that we've generated. So we're looking at total revenue in that first year of roughly about $400,000 from the energy credits and all of those other sources that I mentioned, and including the offset from the energy itself. So you have that $400,000 kind of as a boost in the first year. And that's assuming that we're going to offset that 20% of your bill. So in addition to getting the money in the bank, presumably we're also lowering your bill by that 49,000. Right?
You anticipate over time any new or additional credits coming available?
I mean, I wish I knew.
Have you seen
I mean, given the political climate, I would be reluctant to say that there's going to be new things, but what we're more concerned about is not just maintaining the existing ones.
You were saying the panels that you're looking at are very late. Is there any chance that they would qualify for?
So the panels that we're talking about, I get into more detail, but that probably the system is not going to reach the threshold of the 40 or 45% that they would need in order to qualify for domestic content. But let me explain that. In addition to the 8.5% that you could get from the energy community bonus, if you notice, there's a column in the middle that says domestic content, also 8.5%. We have not anticipated that you're going to qualify for that, particularly because this is a ground mount system. It's kind of crazy, but when the federal government put these credits together, the fact that a ground mount is made of steel and it's US steel, they just sort of discount that. They don't count that towards the domestic content. So the solar panels themselves, the way that they're manufactured, right now would not qualify for enough to get you to the hurdle of the cost that you would need to qualify for the domestic content. It's a little bit different with roof mounts because they have a different type of racking system. We could talk about that if there are buildings that you would want to look at. They might well qualify for the domestic content, particularly if it's a year or two from now when these manufacturing plants are sort of up and running and producing a lot of that material. Okay, so what I wanted to get to, columns K, L, M, N, O, is sort of the cash flow now, right? Okay, so now you understand kind of what the ability of the system is to generate money upfront and ongoing. And then if you look at column K, for example, that's the debt service, right? So that's, in this case, we're talking about a municipal bond, 25-year municipal bond. So the annual debt service on that is in the range of about $66,000 to $70,000 a year. Right? The good news is that you've already picked up $400,000, so you're sort of prepaid in terms of that debt service for at least, 4 or 5 years. However, you could use that money for some other purpose, because you're gonna keep producing this enough revenue beyond that first year. If you look at like year 3 in column J, you're already up to 69,000. So basically, you're at a net positive enough to cover that debt service beyond that 400,000 that you're getting right at the beginning as a tax credit. That makes sense? So you could bank the 400,000, you could put it into a CD, you could build a new playground with it. I mean, if you wanted to, because there's enough revenue coming in that column J year after year to pay the debt service for those 25 years that the bond is operating. It's, when I told Nicole, she said, I don't believe it. Which, it's funny, because 10 years ago, we would come before a group like yours and say, well, this is what it is, and you're gonna break even in 10 or 15 years. And I'd say, well, how excited should I get about that? So that was one problem. Now our problem is that it's such a good deal that people who are used to thinking about it as, oh, it's too expensive, it takes too long to pay back. They have a hard time understanding that the economics have changed so fundamentally that it's possible. Okay, so last thing I want to mention, so there is a net cash flow. If you look over the 25 years, see every 10 years, there's like a yellow spot in the cash flow. So you're at 275 after 10 years, you're at 302 after 20 years. You're at 706 after 30 years. So you're over $500,000 ahead after having paid for the whole system and gotten the benefit on your electric bill. You're over $500,000 ahead after 30 years. And what we're anticipating is that this system, it isn't like in year 31, it just stops running. They just keep making a little bit less power. So assuming you can get to year 40, you're looking at roughly about 1.6 million in profit or savings, whatever you want to call it, over and above what the cost of the system is over that time. And we have also included, if you look in column M under expenses, we've included or I guess it's column L, insurance and maintenance on the system. So it isn't like, we didn't anticipate having to take care of this thing for 30 years. And if you look in year 21, there's $111,000 in column L. That's to replace the inverters. So there's 3 major components. There's the panels, there's the inverters that convert the power from DC to AC, and there's the racking. The racking doesn't go bad. I mean, it's racking, it's steel, it sits there. The inverters are the part that wear out over time. So typically they're warranted with an extended warranty of 20 years. And so you anticipate over that 35 to 40 year lifespan, you're going to have to replace them at least once. So we've also accounted for that.
This is all hardware. Is there any software program that we need to?
So the inverters are going to be tied to the internet. You're going to have so you're going to need some kind of an internet connection to the location where we have the inverters. And they're going to upload data about performance, and if there are error messages or anything's going on with the system, that performance is going to be uploaded to a website that's maintained by the inverter company. And so you're going to be able to basically pull it up on a computer. You could have an app on your phone. You could have a kiosk out in the lobby that shows your residents how much power you're producing. You do the whole thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, the capability's there. I'm gonna stop talking and ask you to come up and explain a little bit. There's a particular flavor of this funding, because you are a municipal authority that deals with water, that there are some additional benefits that Ryan's gonna tell you about.
Yeah, before I get into the program, a couple things I want to point out that Hal didn't mention. The base credit is actually 30% right now, and the adders are 10%. But it says in the IRA that if you're funding a project like this with tax exempt proceeds, you have to take a 15% haircut. That's why our base is at 25.5%, and the energy community bonus is at 8.5%. So that's after we take that penalty, because we've run the analysis. If you were to borrow over a 25-year period of time, the amount of interest you're gonna pay above and beyond is gonna far exceed that 15% penalty, because taxable interest rates are much higher than tax exempt rates right now. So that was one thing. In order to get that base credit, there's a 6 times boost in order to go from 5% now up to 30%. You have to, the system size has to be 1 megawatt or less. If it's larger than 1 megawatt, you have to meet federal prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements. But I believe you mentioned.
We're just below that.
Yeah, it's 0.4, 0.5, something like that, so you wouldn't have to worry about the apprenticeship and wage, Davis-Bacon rules and regs. So good there. Column K, we put this cash flow together. When we start this, we get a few things from the solar folks. We get the system output year 1, which is column A, the 583,000 based on the system they've designed. And they give us the total cost of the solar side of the project, which is the 906,000 estimated right now. The 103,000 is not an RJ expense. There's a fee in there for images, but this program that we're looking at is through the Kentucky Rural Water Association. We have a group in Louisville, Kentucky that works on strictly bond pool financings, where they have the ability through this agency to lend to issuers in all 50 states. And it's the pool, when they get a group of issuers together, you get the pool rating, which is a AA minus credit rating, which is a pretty strong rating right now in the municipal market. And the issuers that tend to go to this pool are the ones that rarely access the capital markets. It's a smaller project size. They may not have a great credit rating on their own and are possibly unable to get a guarantee from a town or borough. We think, given the 1 million-ish size of this project, it fits. With that program, we would get the AA minus rating, which we could get pretty favorable interest rates in today's market. So we've modeled this up through the Kentucky Rural Water Association Agency. They set this up based on interest rates last week, so it's fairly fresh. Those fees would include all the pools fees. They have the legal counsel that brings all the borrowers together. We have a June tranche that we're borrowing June 10th. There's 52 borrowers in that for 22 borrowers for $52 million is the principal amount. So there's a whole bunch of legal docs that go into it that they handle. It's a competitive auction website where banks come together, bid out the interest rates. So there's a competitive process there. So there's an advisor that runs the pool. There's a whole bunch of fees on their end. There's also local costs, which would be the financial team, your legal counsel, solicitor, your local bond counsel, if they're gonna get involved, and a Pennsylvania paying agent. So all those fees together equal that 103,000 that we have listed there. So all in, the project is just over $1 million. Like I said, the interest rates in column K, going into those numbers are fresh. So that's what it would look like kind of today based on the project size that we were given. And this would be structured with likely a 7 or 8 year call feature, meaning after 7 or 8 years, you have the ability to refinance the debt if there are lower interest rates available in the market. Or if you were to take the 309,000 of ITC credits, you could invest them. They're not subject to arbitrage. So you can invest them at some unlimited yield, keep making money on that amount. It can be set aside in a reserve account, capital project fund, whatever fund you want. Keep building that up. And then after the 7 or 8 years, when we're able to call these bonds, you could take that cash, use it to pay down that issue, shorten it up, and it's going to lower the interest costs that we're showing here at the bottom of column K. So there's a lot of different ways to attack this, a lot of different structures. As I was sitting here, just looking at the far right column N, in year 2, we're looking at scenario 2, the one that you guys just went through. Year 2, your net cash flow is 332,000. But then you see a bunch of slightly negative numbers for the next 10 years. If you wanted to get rid of those and show positive cash flow every year, you could take some portion of those tax credits and just have a larger principal payment in year 2 that you would offset with the tax credits when you receive them. So the whole process of how it works, you build a solar array, you flip the system on. When it's live, you wait until the end of that tax year. You have to file the tax documents. Treasury reviews them, reviews the eligible costs, and then they cut you a check a couple months later. So there is a timing issue there. So we expect the tax credits will kind of come in the year two, which is why it's in the second line. But we could structure the debt to have a larger principal payment, which would then push more principal up and less cost over the life because it's less interest. So there's a bunch of different ways to tackle this. If we structured it that way, that would help ease those years where you're showing negative annual cash flow.
So when you say you file, who is the you?
The borough would probably reach out and get some contacts that we've established. We reach out to an accounting firm that has, they have a history of filing tax credits, and they would walk you through the entire process.
Is that included in your pricing?
Yeah, those are estimates right now. It might be, I don't know the pricing that they charge, but we can certainly look into that.
Because I would,
Yeah,
I would like to know that we have help doing that.
we have pretty good costs from the pool side. I just threw in a number for local costs without talking to your council, the folks on your side. So if there is enough cushion in there, then yes, there's a chance that it might cover that as well.
I have a few other questions. Nobody's asking anything.
One of the other things I'll mention is that there's like with any kind of financial transaction, there's an underwriting function that happens to the borough itself. One of the nice things about this particular program is that underwriting function is streamlined because of the program, pool that you're in, the risk level and everything else. So it's an easier lift in terms of getting qualified, which hopefully means it'll go fairly quickly as well.
Yeah, the process is a lot less cumbersome than a USDA loan, a PennVest loan, not nearly as much documentation. We actually just brought the program to Pennsylvania. Rewind. Raymond James didn't have an office in Pennsylvania until 3 years ago. There was 15 of us that worked for RBC Capital Markets, came over to Raymond James. We do a lot of work in Pennsylvania. We have a long history in the state. And because of that, we were able to bring Ducky Rural Water and establish relationships in Pennsylvania where they never have been able to do business. So with that, we have live borrowers going through this June tranche. And I have been sending out applications and really looking at what information is required. It's not a lot. It's a 2-page application we send out. You list the folks that contacted the borough, your legal team. You list your 10 largest taxpayers, your real estate taxes, assessed value, market value, and like 2 more items. That's it. And also your last 3 years of financial statements. So I think they need your last 2 audits and your whatever your latest budget is. Send it off, they review everything. If there's anything else they need, they let us know. And then they ask what the structure should be. We work with them on figuring out how to size it. Do you want to apply more principal up front? Do we want, 20 years versus 25? I will say the max term you can go is 30 years, but you reach a point where you extend it too much and you're just racking up a lot more interest and there's really no extra benefit. So that's all things that the borough is serious about this and wanting to go down this path. We can certainly, run the analysis, send scenarios your way and really pin down the structure that you think is optimal for the borough.
And let me just take a minute to say, Brian's being very modest about Raymond James's kind of capabilities and their reputation. Raymond James is like the largest bond issuer in the state of Pennsylvania, particularly for school districts. We're also looking at a $7 million project with Punxsutawney that we're already going through the paperwork with through Raymond James. So we have a lot of confidence in them, what they do and their reputation.
Yeah. Midland Borough, is that in Western? Yeah. I live out in Harrisburg, so I'm not totally. Mike McKaig's the one that lives in Pittsburgh and supposed to come to the meeting. He's on vacation this week, so I'm covering for him. But he has 2 in Western PA. I think it's Midland Borough and Aliquippa City. They're both going through the process. If you have any legal type questions, if solicitor has any questions, we can get you connected with their bond counsel. But we feel good about the CED proceedings and getting everything filed and meeting Pennsylvania law. And then we have 2 out in Berks County that are going through the process too.
All right. So me asking all these questions is not a deterrent. I'm actually excited about learning more and hopefully going forward with something like this.
Good.
So maybe I'm forgetting, maybe somebody here can refresh me. What is the goal if it's 20% offsetting our electric versus 80% and limited expansion? Like at some point we can't convert to 50% or 80%.
I think it's a space issue. We don't.
Right, I understand that space, but what I'm saying is the goal to implement solar is a
To
healthy and
reduce,
good thing.
yeah, it's to reduce our costs.
Our cost per year.
Because of the electric is going up and up, yeah.
You know.
And unfortunately, it's only 80% still gonna be electric that we're gonna be.
Yeah.
Paying, okay, all right, I just wanna, I'm asking for the community, I mean, they're listening in on
I
that.
mean, it's that, the other thing that we looked at through Public Works a number of years ago was looking at the property across the street, and we'd be looking at more like to work on that. Financially, it wasn't feasible, and also to purchase property or lease it, for sure. Because of where we are, we're kind of,
Yeah,
we
limited,
are stuck with what space we have, that's the offset of that. But
taking advantage of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ideally, but obviously maximize as much as you
Yeah.
can. We have a bunch of rural schools in Berks County that have a lot of land. And they're really looking at 3 megawatt systems, which are probably 11 or 12 acres. A lot of them are considering putting that on their property because it's gonna offset right around 100% of their electric needs. The larger the system gets, it just becomes more and more efficient, the way that the numbers work. Those, a 3 megawatt system is gonna produce probably $15 million net benefit after 4 years.
And I'm not saying that you guys don't deserve your income, you do, but I'm a penny pincher, so out of the total price that we would be putting out, how much is that labor, how much is that, materials, how much is that in fees? Because
We can get you a breakout, but typically the equipment in a solar system, especially with a ground array, because you have the metal structure versus just sitting on a roof. It's roughly about 60 to 65% of the cost is equipment.
Okay.
And the other 35-40% is labor.
And you believe that, or that equipment is not coming from overseas anywhere at all? or it's-
So let me talk a little bit about that. So, the steel is American steel.
Mhm.
Okay, so the structures, concrete, the physical structure of it. The other two components, like I said, are the solar panels. The solar panels that we've been using for several years come from a company called V-Sun. And feel free to look them up. They're considered in the top tier of value. They were originally manufactured, they're a subsidiary of Sony Corporation, I'm sorry, Fuji Corporation. So they have a large financial backer. They were manufactured in Vietnam and continue to be. However, because of the changing trade environment, they've made a decision to start manufacturing in the United States and Texas. So the way that you start that process is you set up a plan and you assemble first, right? You get all the parts and pieces wherever you need them, and you get a workforce that can put them together here.
Okay, so.
They've already accomplished that. They have the plan. They are already assembling, but their component pieces are still, many of them imported, which is
Okay.
why they're not yet considered domestic content. But they have plans to eventually make their own silicon and all their other components here in the United States.
Okay, thank you.
Inverters are also gonna be from the United States.
Does anyone more questions?
I probably will along the way,
Yeah.
but they're good questions, so. Okay, go ahead, thank you so much.
All right, well, thanks for your time and, we're happy to continue to engage and come back and answer more questions. We will get you a copy of the presentation that we did. And I guess what I would say too is that there are a lot of opportunities, like Punxsutawney Borough that we're working with. And the big thing is that prices are going up. So there's sort of this window of opportunity to get something done. We've been talking with Nicole for 2.5 years already about doing this. And so, I like to say old solar customers never die, they just wait till next year. So we're 2 years in at this point. But we'd really like to do this project for you, and we think we found like the solution for the financing of it. And the real beauty of it is there's almost no negative cash flow. I mean, it used to be that you would have to like take out a loan and it would take 8-10 years until you got to break even. This literally gives you positive cash flow, especially if you structure the small amounts in the first couple of years.
If that's something you're concerned about, having those negatives, as I was mentioning, I can go back to the drawing board, move the numbers around so that there's positives every year. I can shorten it, see what 20 years looks like. Rates have actually come down in the last 3 days, so it might look a little bit better for that alone. I had this structured to be part of the December tranche, but that's obviously we have plenty of time, so we can work how quickly or how slowly you want to do.
Well, I guess some of my other concerns would be if, some of the panels or the inverters go bad in 12 years. The item that you replace it with, will it be compatible? Because there'll be so much technology improvements and things. That's, how can we get this replaced before the 30 years is up?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, there is warranty coverage, including like secondary warranty on things. So if for some reason a company stopped working or stopped manufacturing, there would be financial backing for the actual cost of it. And as far as the way the warranty works, as I mentioned, after 12 years, they will literally pay you for the energy that the system would have produced if it's not making that.
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
that payment is actually guaranteed by a third party risk insurer. And in this case, it's Munich Re,
Right.
which is based in Germany. And
It's one of the largest ones in
insurers.
Europe.
And then how do you dispose of broken materials?
That's a great question. We actually got that, another municipality we're talking to right now is Findlay Township. They're looking at doing something very similar, almost the exact same size. And some of the people on their water board asked the same thing. They said, what are we gonna do with these panels after 25 or 30 years?
Sell it back to title.
So the reality is that the industry is new enough that very few panels have reached the point where they have to be recycled. There is a cost to recycling that we looked into. In their case, for, what is that, about a 700 kilowatt system, 750, it's a little bit larger than this one. I think the total cost of today's dollars to recycle is about $30,000.
We're assuming 2% of the project cost as tear down cost, which is actually baked into year 40. If you look at the bottom of column L, there's an extra 20,000 baked into that, and that's in these numbers for tear down.
Thank you.
And I also, last thing I want to point out, we have like a 15-page PowerPoint on the rural water program that I can email to you.
Okay.
That gives you a bunch of the facts and figures of how it works. So that might be helpful to understand the program a little more.
How long does this process take? Like, is
That was one of my slides.
It's a long
Hold
time.
on.
Okay.
Their process on the funding side.
Well, then, I
Well,
get.
trying to calculate how long it's gonna take.
Glad you
for us
asked.
to get on board to the.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's what we're looking at. This is like a Gantt chart, right? So this is basically Q2 of 25. So this is like May, June, July, August, September. So what we're anticipating, the red bar is the financing process. So that's Ryan's piece. So it's gonna take roughly about 6 to 8 weeks to get that figured out. Is that about fair?
Yeah, I mean, we got two of the PA issuers in the queue in 3 weeks. You'll have their funds at the end of June.
Okay.
So it's.
So that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's quick.
The yellow bar is engineering. So we're anticipating roughly about 40 to 50 days for the engineering to get all the drawings done so that they could be submitted to the utility and to the borough for permitting. The blue bar is the utility approval. That's like the biggest piece is once you do the interconnection application, you send it to the utility. They're gonna like check it out and figure out, make sure that the wires they have in the neighborhood are big enough to carry the power and all that kind of stuff. That takes a couple of months. We're allowing up to 3 months, 2 to 3 months for that. At the same time, though, we're gonna do procurement. So the black bar is the actual buying of the equipment. So assuming that you're willing at the same time that the interconnection begins to put a deposit down upon the major components, which would be the panels, the inverters, and the racking, we can start the procurement process. We can issue a purchase order which locks the price at today's price, whatever that is. Right, so that's really important, especially because we're anticipating over the summer that we're going to see price increases, particularly on the panels, probably in the range of 20 or 30 cents a watt, as much as that. They've already gone up probably about 3 or 4 cents a watt just in the last 3 months.
So other than that possible price increase, is there a possibility that we're gonna owe you more money, or will you be charging, will there be more money coming from somewhere?
Once that's locked in, we're gonna sign a contract with you and their funding is gonna be based on that contract amount. I mean, that's not to say that things can't come up that, you know, are unexpected, you know, we could start driving in posts and, I don't know, hit a gas well or something, who knows, but, right, but I mean, just based on the standard construction that we're anticipating. We will also do what's called a pull test, which means that when we come out, when we sign a contract, we will actually have a company that actually erects the structure, come out and drive posts down into the ground, and see like what the bearing is of the soil, how far it is till you get to bedrock, how much resistance there is when you try to pull it out, just to make sure that this method that we're talking about is gonna be compatible with that piece of ground. That's a standard thing that we do.
So how long does it take to lock in the whatever price we're gonna?
Okay, well, no, it's not. So the blue bar is the utility approval, the black is the procurement. If you put down 30% on those major components at that time, and with, you know, with a roughly $1 million system, we're probably talking in the range of what, 200,000-ish. Then the construction period, we're anticipating about 2.5 months to actually build the thing.
Yeah, so it looks like you're assuming they would get funding in July, is that? Yeah, so right now I'm assuming December, the next tranche is probably September. We could, if you wanted to move quick enough, we could probably get you in the September tranche. You'd have your funds probably 2 weeks after you had the bond sale. You could set aside the 30% that he's talking about, and then there's also an investment wing of Raymond James where the remainder, if you wanted to invest that short term until the rest of the draws came due, you might be able to make a little bit extra money on that side as well. So it's something to think about.
And then probably about another 2 to 3 weeks for like inspections, commissioning, training of your staff, etc. That's it. So we're anticipating, you know, done the first quarter of 2026. 2026. So roughly a year from now, a little less than a year from now.
And this is based on making a decision and agreeing to move forward with this like now. Right?
Well, sure, I mean, obviously you all have to, the point is it isn't like Raymond James is going away, but there are certain terms that are available now that are pretty favorable that could change in a couple of months. So there is an opportunity, there's that window of opportunity. And obviously, the sooner you make a decision about it, and get moving on it, the more certain we are to be able to maintain the deal that we are looking at now.
As far as that. Price.
Yeah.
Prices.
Price, yeah. And also taking advantage of the different incentives that are in place right now.
How folks feel about discussing this further? Do you want to talk today or do you want to do this to? I worry about delay. We've already discussed and agreed on this. At least 2 or 3 times. Yeah, a year ago, we agreed on this, we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So. I know there's a lot of folks absent, but we all agreed on this originally, so.
Make a motion to move forward with EIS and Raymond James proposal.
All right, I make a motion to move forward with the Raymond James and EIS solar array proposal.
Oh, sorry.
Second from Peter. Getting all this. Okay. Is
Yes.
there any discussion on the topic? No? Favor of,
You're spending a lot.
yeah, let's do a roll call.
Okay. Broad,
Yes.
Colazo,
Yeah.
DeBowser, Frick, Lancaster,
Yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Cerniso, Smith.
Yes.
5 yes, 3 absent.
Move forward.
Look,
Yeah.
I'll get you.
We'll be in touch.
I can introduce you to this. Questions that you guys want.
Oh, you got some paperwork to do.
Congratulations.
I'll put out as much as I can. And then it's like-
It's only going up. I don't want to spend any more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The longer we delay.
Yeah.
It's getting.
All right.
Thank you.
Well,
Right.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right.
4 million, extra million here. So my 5 years, I'm gonna spend.
That was why she.
I've been in public works for so long, $1 million does not sound good. All right, let's go ahead and approve the minutes. In your council packet, you have the April 8th, 2025 council minutes. Make it approve, Peter.
Sorry.
Does anyone have any discussion on the minutes? No, all right, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion carries, those minutes are approved. Let's move on to the March 2025 financial report. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the financial report? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The reports are approved. All right, now we can move on to public comment. Thank you for waiting. So come up to the.
Did everybody sign up?
Yeah. there is.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
You state your name and municipality and, you have 3 minutes. We have-
Yeah.
Someone has time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, hi, my name is April Offenbeck and I've been employed with the Indiana Borough for 20 years. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of many coworkers who are trying to do something simple and compassionate. We want to help out our friend and colleague, Dawn. Dawn was recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and on top of that, his wife is also dealing with some serious health issues. They're both going through something that no one else, or that no one should have to face alone. Naturally, many of us asked ourselves, what can we do to help? The answer was clear. We wanted to donate some of our earned sick time so Don could focus on his treatments and being with his wife without the added stress of running out of leave. I asked my supervisor about donating sick days, and I was informed that the borough was working on a new policy. So I met with the new human resources rep, and she informed me that this policy would stop employees from donating sick time. Instead, only vacation or personal time could be donated. And even then, it has to go into a general leave bank that any employee could use. It couldn't go directly to Dawn. This new policy would remove the personal connection and purpose that drives people to give. It replaces a deeply human gesture with a faceless process and diminishes morale. I find myself asking, isn't sick time meant to be used when you are sick? I earned that time through my work, was not given to her. Why shouldn't I be allowed to donate it to a coworker who is seriously ill? Historically, employees have been allowed to donate their sick time directly to individuals facing a difficult diagnosis. In doing so, it recognizes that sick time is meant to support health and recovery. How does denying this person the same support others have received reflect our values as a workplace? How can we say this is the right thing when it directly harms someone during one of the hardest experiences someone can endure? Changing that now by requiring that only personal or vacation time be donated in a general pool would be a step backward. Limiting donation options in this way makes it significantly harder for employees to help in a meaningful way. Dawn is a valued employee and a good person. Several of us are willing and eager to step up and give him the time that he needs. And I am struggling with why the borough would want to stop that. Isn't that what a supportive workplace is supposed to do? So I respectfully ask the council to reconsider this policy. Let us use our earned sick time to help a friend and colleague in need. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was stressful.
All right, how the. Whoever wants.
I'm the Donald Peffer that April referred to. Just to give you a little background, years back, my wife worked for the borough. She was the borough payroll clerk and, secretary for 42 years. She had to have a kidney transplant. And I used quite a bit of time off to be with her and help her out. Not knowing that a year later, I was diagnosed with a cancerous tumor and lost my right kidney. So I lost more time off dealing with my own problem there and still trying to help my wife out when she needed it. She's still having ongoing problems. And she's right now at St. Andrews Village and, going through some things there with the IVs and stuff. And just in a recent checkup, I found out that the renal cancer that I had metastasized into my lungs. And I have to go through, treatments for that. I've used up about everything that I have. Back when my kidney was taken out, I used everything I had. So I was starting from zero, trying to build it back up. My coworkers have graciously offered to help me out. And we've run into this stumbling block. And we all feel that it is our time. That we've earned it, whether it's a vacation day or a sick day. It shouldn't matter, that it's our time. If we want to give it to somebody, we should be able to give it. Not just because it's me, but because we are all borough employees. If somebody at the street department, the sewage treatment plant, any place needs it, we should be able to give it to them and not just throw it out there. I mean, who wants to just say, oh, I don't need these vacation days, just throw them in the bank? It's probably not gonna work, and then you have a bank that's empty and nobody can use it. Or Joe Blow that comes along and takes every Friday off because he feels sick. Then there's no more days in the bank for somebody else that comes along that truly needs it. That's one way of looking at it. And I just hope that you will consider letting us more or less police our own ranks and know the individual, know the person that's in need. Let us donate as we see fit our time, whether it's vacation, sick days, or whatever. But I thank my fellow employees here, co-workers for coming out and supporting this. I hope you can support it too. Thank you.
It was tabled to admin. I think Lacey was gonna attend the next admin, not this admin meeting, attend the next.
Because there is,
Obviously, it was a policy. I think there were some questions that we put.
does anyone else want to talk? Or
We're just here for support.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so I didn't want to interrupt.
So we're saying at the next admin meeting, this will be discussed.
Yeah, we discussed the policy, it was brought up, we didn't make a decision.
No, because we took it back. Remember, there was some issue with the FM. Lacey changed some things with and I'm saying Lacey, the HR consultant changed some issues with the HR or with the family medical leave. She referred more to the family medical leave definition and some of that, so she did change it. It was gonna come back to admin.
Yes.
Again, that
The pool was that it's fair and universal to everybody. There's different definitions of time. And whether it's earned or just like, you don't accrue, certain times accrue every year, certain times end at the year, you don't.
And-
So I think that's it.
Yeah, I don't know the whole history. I know in some cases, there was cases that some people did get it in the past. The union did offer it to somebody, they came, council approved it. We're trying to find those minutes. But it wasn't sick days, it was just vacation and vacation days. And then I believe, there was another occasion when somebody didn't get it. So I think the bank was to make it fair, like, okay, people are donating. And unfortunately, I think the sad situation is, yes, everybody's gonna give to Dawn. Everybody loves Dawn,
Then he
but
deserves it.
and he
Earned it.
deserves it. But if you have another employee that maybe nobody's gonna say, no, I'm not gonna give it to that person. That
That's
could
the
have the
idea
same,
of making it fair
issue.
to everybody across the. whole
yeah,
borough,
and
because
again,
it's
that was
important.
a policy taken from other places.
Yeah.
But it's our days, we should be able to use them however we see fit. I mean, unfortunately, if somebody in the street department gets sick, then, I mean, anybody can donate. I mean, if they don't, then shame on them, and maybe they're not close to that person.
Well, it's not shame on them.
But it's
I
our
understand.
days,
Right.
right?
What if there was I know we're talking an admin, but what if there was a possibility that if you're gonna donate 8 hours, 2 of them will go to the pool, the 6 will go to that person that they designated, so can they divide that up?
It still all goes to the pool and the bank, right? And then
It all
the
goes.
individual has to apply to the bank for
Yeah.
approval. It's just a different type
I'll
of
be
approval
honest, if I'm
process.
not friends or close to a certain person, I'm not gonna donate anything to them.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess
I
that's
mean,
kind of
that's
the
just
issue.
The nature of the beast, I mean, everybody.
Is it reality fair
gets
across
something all
the
the time.
borough, whether we're all cared for, just.
And what I'm hearing is the decision has not been made yet.
No,
No,
the policy
the policy
just,
is under review.
the policy, HR just started, it was the
Yeah.
first, you saw the first
You
round.
got the first draft.
I just saw the
at
first
last
draft when you guys saw
admin
the
meeting.
first draft.
Yeah. So this is, all right, we'll talk about
Yeah.
that admin. Thank you
Yeah.
for coming. We'll get a better
If
sense.
it's on the agenda, like when it's gonna be voted on and things like that.
Well,
It'll be on the agenda.
It'll be on the agenda for admin, which is in 2
2
weeks. We can't vote that meeting, but we'll discuss it and we'll bring it to council, so it'll be at the beginning of next, the vote
Thank you.
on it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. All right, let's get to committee reports. All right, admin. Yeah.
Pretty thorough
Yeah, can we?
review of the.
Can we possibly do all of the action items now? Because we're about a half an hour past her bedtime, and she has one morning, so I have to make sure
Okay, that's,
it's possible, and then come back.
Fine with that.
Okay.
admin has 3 motions. First one, remove to accept the lowest responsible bid from Kirkpatrick Construction in the amount of $5,190 for the repairs to the parking garage stairs.
We spent a money roll.
Committee.
We gotta do roll.
Hmm?
We have to do roll, right?
Don't do a roll call because we're spending money.
All right.
Broad,
Yes,
Palazzo.
Yeah.
DeBowser, Frick, Lancaster,
yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Cerniso, Smith.
yes.
5 yes, 3 absent.
Next motion, I just took fast on my computer here. All right, here we go. Is for is a move to approve the Borough, Indiana Retirement and Welfare Plans Engagement Agreement set forth by Knox Law. This is to replace our former employer who
Brandy
retired.
Rhodes
Randy
retired.
Rhodes retired.
Just a-
Again, it doesn't need a motion, doesn't need a second. We approve this at the committee.
You will be
Do we
spending,
need a,
I would, you're spending money.
anybody, okay,
Broad,
yes,
Palazzo,
Yes.
DeBowser, Frick, Lancaster,
yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Cerniso, Smith.
Yes.
5 yes,
Okay.
3 absent.
All right, then we have a motion to adopt the 2025 budget, which
This.
do
Sure.
you-
Sounds like.
Yeah, it just sounds like there was a clerical error along the way at some point. You guys voted to approve the tax ordinance,
we advertised it,
advertised it, everything.
put it on
We
display.
did vote to
On
adopt
display.
it, but I think maybe
It-
Luke was running through it.
It
and
was
didn't-
rushed through,
But
it was
rushed
on the
through.
agenda.
It was
and
on the
never
agenda
made
to be
the
voted for,
motion.
but for some reason,
It didn't
in the
say.
minutes, it's not reflecting that it was voted on, so to cover our proverbial backside, that's what we're doing.
Okay, so this needs a second.
A second.
All right. I guess a budget, so it needs a roll call.
Yep, sorry.
Broad,
Yes,
Colaszo,
Yes.
DeBowser, Frick, Lancaster,
yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Cerniso, Smith.
Yes.
5 yes, 3 absent.
Okay. I don't know, we need to review any of the other material that's in the administration, moving on to public works.
This is slightly out of order and that you don't need to do that.
What's slightly,
It goes public safety, then public works, but.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. Community development, he's not here. We were all mostly there. You wanna do your public safety?
Nothing really to review. We have a suggested motion to move to approve the event application for the 2025 car show hosted by Downtown Indiana on Sunday, June 15th, 2025, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. The event will take place in Philadelphia Street between 5th and 9th Streets. Doesn't need second. Is there any discussion? We're not spending money, so all in favor say aye. Aye. Nay. Okay, passes. This next one, I'm having trouble understanding the way it's written. It's with the noise ordinance. We need to review ordinance 257. The noise ordinance fines with the borough solicitor.
And we got the magistrate at Till's office has asked me to revisit these fines because he's not comfortable with how that was done and the way that some of the fines apply from this time to this time. So I had asked public safety to take a look at it. I mean, those fines are just not in the proposed ordinance. Those are just ones that I picked in conversation with the magistrate. You can set them however you want, but the way the existing ordinance is, it's kind of jumbled. And he just doesn't feel that it's appropriate, and he's leery to find anybody guilty because he doesn't like the way the fine structure is. So that's why he asked us to take a look
So
at
he's
it.
saying it's hard to enforce.
I don't know if it's hard to enforce. He just doesn't feel that it's equitable, I
So-
guess would be a fair
I
word.
guess I can make a motion that we review the ordinance.
Well, we
Right.
did, but
Okay.
the problem was I think Luke, people didn't like the way it was worded, or they didn't understand it, and I think the chief and I, remember we tried to explain it was about till Pat wrote it. And they're like, well, take it back to Pat. I'm like, it did come from Pat.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, do you have, I don't have my copy in front of me.
It was like 0 to 500, it was like at the judge's discretion, and then you just made it so that it was like
Keep the copy right in
incrementally.
here.
Yeah,
It made sense to me.
I thought that the Public Safety Committee, we agreed that we were
Yeah.
gonna bring it back as it was for approval
Yeah.
at this council meeting. I didn't sense that there was any debate about the way that it was newly written.
Okay.
yeah, because the way
Okay.
this was worded on here to talk to me, that was my only question, but if you guys are okay with it as written, I think that'll clarify. And I think it'll be easier for your officers to cite and for the judge to enforce.
Yeah, the amendment makes no difference from our enforcement.
Right.
It was just structured for.
For the magistrate to be able to impose the
That's
fine.
right, that's right.
So what are you doing, Tom?
Are we good to?
Yeah.
So we're gonna vote on it now?
You need you need a second probably?
yeah, because it didn't, yeah.
Okay, make a motion then that, how would I word that? That we accept the noise ordinance, number 257, with, fines and, that it's,
As amended.
As amended.
Public safety.
as amended in the public safety meeting.
Second.
I'm never gonna second anything.
All right,
You're amending an ordinance, so I would probably take a roll call, sorry.
okay, is there any other discussion on the topic? Okay. Mark, can we get a roll call on this?
Yes, Broad,
Yes,
Colaszo,
Yes.
DeBowser, Frick, Lancaster,
Yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Cerniso, Smith.
Yes.
5 yes, 3 absent.
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, let's move on to Public Works. We have a number of resolutions, timely ones with the spending a lot of money. All right, first we have the letter of responsibility for the Penvest application. It's moved to approve the letter of responsibility stating Indiana Borough's intent to apply and comply with the Penvest funding for the wastewater treatment plant improvements. And I don't believe we need a second for any of this. We want to, this doesn't need a roll call. All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, so the next is the resolution to apply for Penvest. Move to approve resolution 2025-06, the resolution to apply Penvest for the wastewater treatment plant improvements. Is this, do we need to do a roll call or?
This is just to apply, right?
Yeah, just to apply.
To roll call, or no, roll call, because we're not spending it.
All right, all in, any discussion for this?
I was at the meeting.
Okay. All in favor of approving the resolution to apply, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Third one, resolution to reimburse the general fund. Move to approve the resolution 2025-07, resolution to reimburse the general fund with Penvest funds for the wastewater treatment plant improvements. Should we vote on that roll call or
It's a movement of money. right?
movement of money? Is that considered we're not spending money?
I would probably just roll call because it is money.
Okay, any discussion on the matter? All right, we get a roll call?
Yes. Broad,
Yes.
Colazo,
Yes.
DeBowser, Frick, Lancaster,
Yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Cerniso, Smith.
Yes.
5 yes, 3 absent.
Thanks, motion carries. The fourth one, is for a change order, and this one will need the second. Move to approve the change order for, Cooker and Contracting in the amount of $45,377 for the walls, spall repairs at the wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the matter? All right, I think we're gonna need a roll call in this financial.
Yes. Broad,
Yes.
Colazo,
Yes.
DeBowser, Frick, Lancaster,
Yes.
Newell,
Yes.
Cerniso, Smith.
Yes.
5 yes, 3 absent.
All right, thank you. I think that's everything for Public Works. Okay, I'm gonna actually have to take off now, to put her to bed. So, you're one,
You want me to take over?
you're here,
You're the old president. You know the.
you know the real.
Previous.
We'll have to-
All right, moving on, commission reports, planning commission, which I happen to have here, but there's very good notes in the minute, in the packet, so I don't really have anything to add to what's there. I had all these notes I had, and then the whole thing in your packet, so unless somebody has any questions. You can see that all kinds of things are moving ahead. There are some other things that did not make it into there, when I came up under all business, that the commission is thinking about eliminating parking requirements for some commercial thing. In other words, right now, we have some commercial about parking requirements which limit being able to open a business in certain zones. They also, are talking about allowing mixed use in the R3. There was a negative feelings about allowing Airbnbs and VRBOs in R1. And the same for ADUs. Accessory dwelling units. They wanted to try to see if they can make the zoning encourage stream and park development. They're strongly in favor of food trucks in C2. And in requiring that parking lots not be 360 degrees, but have a front door on the street. Those things did not show up in the minutes. But it showed up in my notes.
But it is included in like the zoo
Yeah,
conservation ordinance, yeah, I was gonna say it's on my wall like that.
and that's what I have from, from the planning commission. Any questions? Shade tree? You go to shade tree?
They had Arbor Day, that went over well, that was posted, that tree got planted on that same row. Church.
Yeah,
The trees were planted for this,
1398 Philadelphia Street.
yeah.
We declared Arbor Day then April 25th.
Yeah.
Because we're Tree City, USA.
As we have always been. Borough manager, anything new?
No, I just want to remind everybody I'll be attending the conference, the 18th through the 21st with Dr. Perry from IUP for the presenting the collaboration agreement that we work on with IUP. So I will be on to Lancaster those couple days. We'll continue to work on, Eden's been working, fielding information for the garbage. If people were, this week it's the first bulk pickup where they scheduled it. Where, you know, the information's getting put out there, Waste Management's working with us as people call in. So they just, it's, people are being patient. We're working through the kinks and, we're getting through it. The library is gonna be doing the 17th. I'm gonna be volunteering. They asked me to be a guest dealer for their casino night at the library event. This Saturday, the 17th, so I'll be there if anybody wants to go online and purchase tickets. Sounds like it's gonna be a fun event. And that's it.
As far as the trash cans go,
Questions for Nicole?
I have a question for Nicole. As far as the trash cans go, I know that one of my neighbors used to have an agreement with Waste Management that they came up her back driveway, got her trash
Talk
can.
to her, yes.
Yeah, I know you spoke to her, but, I know that if any of our residents would like to have that set up again, that they're supposed to submit a letter from their doctor stating that they have mobility issues, that they are requesting or requiring assistance. And, the question was, does it get presented to you and you handle it, or does their public information or private information get sent to Waste Management? Because they were opposed to Waste Management getting their information. They just want you to handle that and say, yeah, this address we approved.
Well, Waste Management is approving that assistance. So they're the ones with the policy, they're the ones with the service. Again, it's one of the, it'd be, I think the question is they're trying to avoid everybody from saying that. Abusing, like, again, abusing the situation. So that's one of the things where, you know, we're not asking for a full detailed medical thing if the doctor wants to write on their doctor letterhead.
Limited mobility.
Yeah,
That's
limited
it, just limited
mobility.
mobility, okay.
You know,
So at least
Waste
public-
Management will take it.
They have been really accepting, so if residents they've had a back surgery, a knee surgery, and they have proof of that. Waste Management so far has accepted that, so a lot of times I know it's difficult to get to the doctor, we've run into that, if they have some documentation, Waste Management has been pretty good in just accepting that.
And then the other thing was, there are smaller trash cans available. Correct? Not the gargantuous one, for some folks who would prefer to get one of the smaller ones, I don't know.
Wow. You have to be, that's for 62 and older.
Okay.
Or
Or,
medical.
okay,
Yes,
I just wanted to
there is a.
publicly make sure that people are listening.
And I should have one, but I don't.
You
You can get one.
want one?
I didn't get one.
Well, you want one right now?
Did you
I'm
sign
still
up?
getting rid of some, fun stuff to throw in there. I haven't filled up the big one yet.
You get that little one, you might be sorry.
I doubt it.
Yeah, that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great. Chief,
So thank you. Pleasure to be with everyone tonight. Just to keep my comments very brief, I wanted to inform council and our community that yearly there's a peace officer memorial service that is held in May. And Indiana County Police Departments have shared the responsibility of hosting the service throughout the years. So Indiana Borough's hosting this year's Peace Officer Memorial Service. Manager Cepas, Director Gellis, and Director Kula have graciously agreed to help the police department. We're gonna do that on May 15th. We haven't issued any public invitations yet, but the Peace Officer Memorial Service is gonna be Thursday, May 15th, 12:15 PM. We're going to use IRMC Park. Weather permitting, IRMC Park's already closed that day for third Thursday events, so we've spoken with DI and Manager Cepas about the opportunity of sharing that space just for the service. The service will be done well in advance of third Thursday. We do have a contingency plan for weather, but we're gonna hope weather does permit us to do it in the park, and we invite everyone to come out and join us. Ceremony last less than an hour, try and do it over lunch. All police departments for the county will be represented. We hope to do that well because all of our partner police agencies have hosted this same ceremony in their boroughs, and they've done a fantastic job. So we have big shoes to fill, but we hope to make this a special event for everyone in 2025. So again, that's May 15th. Really, the only other thing I wanted to just mention to you is that I have sought a funding source for an opportunity to put a fence on the Water Street side of the police department for the purpose of a small dog park. And that would support our canine program and also for community use, would allow us an opportunity to do some engagement in that space. I don't know if that project will be funded, but I did some legwork into it, so I'll be bringing that more to Public Safety Committee for a deeper discussion, but I just wanted to touch on that here tonight.
small dog park, a small park or a park for small dogs?
Well, it's gonna be a small space for any size dog.
Your dog's not small.
Again, it's an idea. There was some,
I didn't.
yeah, there were some time limitations on that funding application, but I wanted to seize the moment to see if we could bring this to fruition. And so again, I just wanted to touch on it here with you today. Other than that, all is well, continues to be well with the renovation. We appreciate Manager Cepas and all the work that she's done and all the work that Public Works Department's done in supporting our move back upstairs. And we're still a work in progress, but we look forward to whenever the grand unveil is again for the Borough building, that we'll be ready for it. So we're just being methodical with how we fill that space. And I just appreciate the support of Mayor Simmons throughout all of our move and everything public safety related within Indiana Borough. It's extremely important, and his input is always a benefit to us. So thank you.
Any questions? for
I
the chief?
do, I have a question. I noticed Saturday when I got home from being out of town on South Sixth Street, there's a speed monitor thing that registers your speed and flashes at you. Either we got a new machine or is it PennDOT doing their studies?
That should be our machine.
Is that art? Cause it
Yeah.
looks different than the ones we had before.
Well, I haven't driven in that area, so maybe I misspoke, but I can tell you that we are conducting some speed assessments.
Yeah,
in the
I just
South
saw it.
Sixth Street corridor. I don't know which box you're specifically referring to. I'm gonna assume it's ours, but there may be more than one competing
It didn't have the big
speed assessment. I
stand that I
don't know.
noticed, I did notice that,
Yeah.
and I knew ours was out of service for a while.
Yeah, it's important to note that when community members or the police department assesses that there might be a speed related issue in any area of town, we do have the capability and the interest in assessing that speed 24 hours a day. You know, we do traffic studies with a great deal of frequency, so
dirt and on the punch it.
No, not on our equipment.
Good.
It does register, it just doesn't tell you who it was
Yeah.
or whatever. I like it because people come in off of, on South Sixth Street off of 422 at a high rate of speed into the borough. And it gets them to slow down.
Where is this thing place? Cause I haven't seen it.
By Grant.
As you're coming, heading north, go past the hospital, you enter the borough, you're going up South Sixth Street toward the old courthouse. It's about around Grant Street and South Sixth.
Did it just go up?
I didn't notice it before, now I
I
got
was
home
driving
from
up there.
out of town and it was there.
For a couple of weeks and I didn't see it.
Well, good.
I don't know, I can't.
I
answer that
noticed it on Saturday. Cause it registered my speed, and I was well under the speed limit, cause I was turning on my street. But I did like seeing it there, cause people do speed.
Well, if everyone acts on our roadways like there's a speed timing device in front of them, we'll be in good shape, so. Appreciate it.
And I just know with the studies that we talked about, PennDOT doing concerning the tragedy that happened. I didn't know if it was us or them.
My assumption is that it's us, but.
Okay.
But it is possible that maybe more than.
Either way, I
More
like
than one entity
I like it.
assessing speed, so.
I like it because of what it does.
I did mention to Lieutenant maybe putting a decoy car on Water Street.
All those are good, all those are valid and good ideas, but I mean,
Those people fly.
Yeah.
One word. Water Street, yeah.
Yeah, certain streets are tough. But thanks.
since the crash at 9th Street, our community has not been shy in pointing out areas of the community that have had some increases in speed or traffic. And so, you know, just a comment to that, we're quickly and diligently assessing all those areas, and no idea is not valid. They're all important. So just continue to contact us, and we will assess them as they come in.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else? The solicitor, you got anything for us?
Well, we really wrapped up a couple big things here in the last few weeks, so that's good news. You know, so everything seems to be going pretty smooth. I'm working with Trajan now to review the Zoom materials, dig into that, so otherwise things are going good.
Good. I noticed the IUP report, but I think that's the one that was presented last month. wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just included in the minutes because IUP was not here again last month. So we wanted to include it in
We
there,
don't have
but
one for this.
we don't have one for this month.
I don't.
But graduation is this Saturday.
Is this weekend? Yeah, yeah.
It will be crazy. Lots of traffic.
Okay. The council president is not here, and I'm not the council president, so.
You didn't answer it.
I don't have to give a report. Mayor.
Talking about funding sources, we're working on a couple of new ideas, raising money through the fire department. And I want to go over in public safety this month, just to give people an idea of what we're working on. Because it's always constant that we have to be out raising money. And yet we're so busy. Just to give you an example, last Tuesday, we had 37 calls in a 24-hour period. So that was just constant. And, you know, it takes money, but we're working on some real good ideas that we'll talk about in public safety. That's it.
Any questions for the mayor? Okay, old business, the EMS authority.
Yeah, so the EMS authority is still waiting to hear back from Harrisburg. Officially enacted. There's hope that that will happen this week, but as of today, hasn't been completed. It's just a back and forth between our attorneys and the governor's office expert. But yeah, things should be moving forward soon. The real goal is to get something on the table for all the municipalities by fall, so that everyone can vote on it in time for their budget assessment.
Good. Any questions? for Jonathan? Is there any new business? Okay. Upcoming event mentioned is the Safe Biking of Indiana County.
Yeah, the county Office of Planning and Development will be proclaiming May to be Safe Biking and Walking Month for Indiana County at the commissioners meeting. I believe the meeting next week, so if you want to attend, that's what they'll be proclaiming. There are 5 events happening in the borough. Well, in Indiana, mostly in the borough over the next month. The first one is Bike to School Day, which will be Wednesday, 2 days from now, Wednesday. And that'll happen from KCAC to Horace Mann and the junior high school, I believe. Our police department always helps out with that, and that starts at 7:30 in the morning. And then there's pretty much an event every week after that. We're finishing off the series with the relaunch of our walk works group route on Friday, May 30th. So that'll be the official relaunch of that. As of right now, we're still hashing out the details, but we'll walk at 3 separate times that day. We have been asking for months and months and months for volunteers from the community to lead those groups and for best times and days. As of now, we picked Friday because it's the only day that doesn't have a walking group in the borough. But we're open to times, and Gingerbread Man Running has graciously decided to step in and kind of fill in some of those group leader positions until we find something a little bit more sustainable. So that'll happen at the end of this month. But those are there'll be a lot of events happening soon, so.
Anything else?
I just want to give a shout out to all the electric companies that came from outside our area to help restore in our area the service.
They keep going out.
I don't know about that and why, but I know that we had a lot of folks coming in, staying at hotels and things like that. Also, Giant Eagle was one of the food stores that participated in discounted groceries to try to help assist folks that lost their groceries. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to mention. Community go together.
All right, and
Martin's, was it also?
What, I'm sorry?
Martin's also?
Yes, Marcus. They took part in the water distribution, I know that.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
2 more calendar updates. Bike ped from last week was postponed, so the bike ped from April will be this Wednesday evening, and then we'll have our normally as scheduled bike ped at the end of the month. And then Shade Tree was also rescheduled to Monday, May 19th, so it'll be happening at the same time as Planning Commission, but Planning Commission will be in here and Shade Tree will be upstairs in the Penn State Extension. And then we will be closed on Memorial Day, which would be the following Monday. So, yeah, May already. So there is some calendar updates, just so everyone's aware of the meeting schedule heading into May.
Currently rain season.
Thank you. Anything else? We have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.